Well, all right, so now that we're in Lightroom, I can sort of show you, how to sort of tie it all together. And I'm going to sort of walk you through a few different images and walk through some steps that I do using Lightroom that really help me take my images, which are not bad images, straight out of the camera, whether you're shooting RAW or JPEG, doesn't matter, but taking those images out of the camera, like this one and this one, which literally this is a RAW photo and it looks color-wise pretty much perfect, but we can still make it better. In something like this, where obviously there's a little bit of more fixing to do here. We're going to walk through these three, and you're going to sort of see some of the tools that you can use inside Lightroom that you might not even know about that will help make your job a little easier, your photos a little better. So let me just walk you through my process. I'm going to go ahead, and the first thing I like to do is I like to use a preset, because that's going to sort of get me what I like to call 85 or 90% of the way there. And I'm going to be, I really like my Endless Elegance presets collection, which I've been using a lot lately. And you can, when you hover over, you can sort of see it gives you a little image. And so, with one click, I can sort of get a different sort of experiment and see some different ones I like. The Cole's Creation is always a great one that looks good. So I probably will end up using one of the Cole's Creation ones. But you can see with one click, we're getting a very quick idea of a look that, depending on your style, if you wanted something really a lot of contrast, or maybe just a little bit more, subtle, we sort of have you covered right here. The mood setter sometimes is a really nice one too. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and go with, I think, Cole's Creation. Okay, so now it's time to sort of really sort of hone in on the image, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more contrast. I'm going to do that by sort of dragging the black slider over a bit, even a little bit of the shadows. Just sort of, let me bring let's take a look right there. It has sort of a really nice classic look. Now I'm going to go ahead and use one of my adjustment brushes that I've made. We're going to do just a little bit on the skin softening, okay? So I'm going to go to the Soften Skin brush, and with my mouse I can make this brush bigger or smaller, just like that. And if I wanted to, I can sort of brush it on red so you can see where you're brushing, but I want you to actually see the effect, so I'm going to just sort of do a little brushing on like that. We're just going to keep brushing. And I don't want to do a lot of skin softening. I just want to sort of take away some of the harshness. Now what we can do here is it already took away some of those sort of imperfections and blemishes on the skin, but we can go ahead and even just raise up the exposure just a little if we want to sort of brighten her up a little bit. So now I can come here to click New, and I can go ahead and actually let's go and do a lip booster. And we're going to make this really small. In fact, let's zoom on in here. Let me try and get right to the lips. And we're just going to sort of brush this on. Okay, so that looks really dark, but let's go and zoom it out a bit. And if we want a lighter color on the lips, we just raise the exposure a bit. So you can sort of fine tune there and get something that looks good. And then now we can hit done when we're all done. And now we can see our before and after. Of course, if you didn't want that preset, then you can pick a different preset quite easily, such as any of these other ones, and still get amazing results, which we still didn't lose out on our the retouching that we did on the brushes. So that's really, really cool. Okay, let's move on to this image. And what I want to show you here is a really cool black and white trick that I learned a little while ago that is just really, really neat. And I mean, just for the sake of fun, it's like you can see how that Cole's Creation really looks good on that one. It's sort of fun to sort of sift through these because editing can actually be fun when it doesn't take up a lot of your time. But nonetheless, even though this picture I love in color, and I would totally leave it in color, it also looks good in black and white. And for this example, I'm going to show you on a black and white image. So let's go ahead and do this black and white film fade. And here's the trick. Basically, you come down here, and we're going to come into the black and white mix here. And then right here, click this target selector. And come over, and what I want to do is I always like to basically pick a sort of part of the skin tone where it's light, and then something that's dark, and you're going to see why. So we're going to start on the light, and we're going to go right here to the face. And by the way, I know that this picture with the preset, it already looks good. But if you want to do any fine tuning, you can do it like this. And I'm going extreme here just to show you the example. All I'm doing with my mouse is I'm moving it up and down, and look at what it's doing. And it's really pretty much only doing it to where I selected. You can see his shirt and her dress, they're completely unchanged. So what this lets you do is it lets you fine tune those tones just in that one part of the image. So let's say that we like the skin tones right there. Now I'm going to come over here to a dark area, and now I can pull those tones down if I want, or I can push them up. And what that's going to do is it's going to basically let you apply contrast on sections of the image rather than the entire image. So the end result is something that has a little bit more zing, a little bit more pop to it, and really lets you fine-tune in a matter of seconds. And obviously we did that in an example in only a matter of a couple minutes. Now, let's go to this third image here. I'm going to edit this image two different ways, okay? I'm going to do one by hand. That way, if you aren't as familiar with Lightroom, then you can sort of see how I would do this without using any presets at all. And then I'll also do one with presets, just so you can sort of see the process from a workflow standpoint in terms of why I love using presets so much and how they could potentially help you too. So if I were to edit this by hand, here's what I would do. First thing is I'm going to raise the shadow areas, because you can see, if I just double click here, it goes back to 0, but you can see he's a little bit shadowed. So I'm going to raise the shadows. I think I need to drop the blacks a little bit just to retain some of that little contrast. I don't think I need to do anything with the exposure here, so that's actually good as is. I'm going to drop the highlights a little bit, and that's going to sort of help with the sky a little bit. I could either drop the whites and sort of crush the tones a bit, or if I bring it up a little bit, it'll add contrast. I'm going to add a little clarity just to give a little bit of a little boost. I don't want to do anything to white balance, and everything here looks pretty good. Maybe would do a little bit of a lens vignetting. You look at the corners there, yeah, just to sort of push the viewer's eye right here. And that's pretty much it, I would say. It looks pretty good. If I want, I could push the shadows a little bit more or something like that. But that's essentially what I would do, and that's how it's done. And I work with top down, and as a matter of a minute or so, I'm done. Well, let me go ahead and hit reset now. So we're back to where we started. Now, here's what I would prefer to do, is use the presets to do the heavy lifting. So for me, on this one, I think what would be really good is two different presets. Number one, I could do this color pop and then sort of adjust from there. Or I think that the edge preset might be good. Sometimes sour apple, maybe. And you know what? On this particular image, I'm actually going to go into my crisp and clean presets, because I think the Jerf preset or the Miracle preset, I think the Miracle is the winner. That one is going to be the winner. So I found a preset that pretty much did most of the work for me. Now I can fine tune it. I'm going to drop the exposure just a little bit. I want to bring that drama back. And then I'm also going to remove this from the preset, because I have a new graduated filter that I think is going to be really great, and that's called the Blue Sky Boost. And we're going to just click right there and drag it on down. And if you drag too far, if you're in a newer version of Lightroom, you can actually let go, and you can come here to brush and then hit the erase tool, and I can actually erase any of that effect off of my subject. So that's really neat. So now I'm going to hit done. And I don't need to do anything cool like skin blemishes here or anything like that. If I wanted, I could still add that sort of vignetting, but I don't really want to be honest. I like it as is. And instead of taking about a minute, if I wasn't explaining things, that's about a 10-second edit. But the point here is to look at, here was a picture that had some good elements to it. The exposure wasn't bad, but it obviously needed some work. And look at what we were able to turn it into. And even like this photo, once you get the sort of base edit down and you apply your sort of retouching, we're taking images that we're just adding that polish, adding that sort of zing in far less time to sort of give your own little signature look. And you can still get that signature look even when you're using presets as a base. Remember, the presets I don't use the presets because that's going to be a one click and I'm done. I use the presets because that's a good starting point to do 85% of the editing and let me really focus on that final 15%. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. We aren't done yet. Let me just go ahead and get back into our slides in one moment here.